We are live. Okay. Hello. Welcome to the This Is Not Therapy Hour. I am Brandon Tessers. I'm a licensed therapist, but this is not therapy for very, very many reasons. What this is instead is just an open conversation. I am here, and my friend and colleague Caitlin Miller will be joining us as well. And we will be talking with one another, and we will be talking with you all, doing our best to make our guesses about who you are and what you're interested in and how you're interpreting what we are putting out there, how we're coming across and impacting you. For those of you who are willing and able to participate in the chat, we appreciate that because it gives us more information on which to base those guesses about who you are and what you're interested in and how we're coming across, how we're impacting you. We do our best to read out the chat comments that come in because we are live streaming on 3 different platforms simultaneously. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And each of you would only see the comments that are written by other people on that same platform. So if you're on Twitch, you will only see comments written by users on Twitch. So we try to read them out so that everybody on all 3 platforms is on the same page. Some of you are here live. Some of you are watching this as a video on demand after the fact. I mean, what do I know? Maybe some of you are in the year 3000 watching this as like archaeological project. Well, that's fun to think about. Technically possible. Now I'm totally distracted by that. Anyway, so we're doing our best, and Caitlin and I will start by talking about whatever we're talking about. If you are interested in dropping into the chat, please don't hesitate. Don't worry about whether what you're wanting to say is on topic or not. That's not how conversations work. We'll go where we go, and Caitlin and I fortunately get time to talk with one another that isn't on the stream as well. So if there's anything that's important to us to talk about that isn't aligned with what you all are interested in, we can do that at other times. That's funny. Apologies for no stream last week. The decision, I was going to stream last week. It was a holiday, Memorial Day in the States. I was going to do a stream anyway, and then the way that my day went with my family just didn't end up working out well. So I apologize for missing the stream last week without any advance notice or way of communicating that around. And Caitlin is here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I was listening to your intro. I loved the prompt about like the archaeological study in 3000. I was like, ooh, what would they say?
Yeah, that's fun about the future. I mean, the limited nature of human consciousness is always. I just started reading a book. I finished the series that I was reading, and I just had to pick up a new one, and someone had recommended it to me called We Are Legion, We Are Bob.
I haven't heard of it.
It's sorry, just making comments for you. I'm only 3 pages in because I have been exhausted these last several nights, and I only read most part at night as I'm getting ready to like in bed falling asleep.
Yeah.
But the basic premise is the guy who, like in modern day, signs a contract to have himself like frozen after he dies, those cryogenic freezing, whatever, to be revived later, and then gets hit by a car like later that same day, and then wakes up and it's 117 years later. Right?
Wow.
The idea that like time just doesn't pass for humans when we're not conscious. Like the idea of 1,000 years passing is like, oh, that's impossible, right? Like, wait. Then if you just don't exist, passage of time is not something you notice, I suppose.
Wow.
Anyway, real weird and philosophical right out the gate. It's good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I had a fantastic weekend, but didn't like rest as much as I normally do. That I think helps me kind of recharge back into therapist mode. So it was like a fantastic weekend, but yeah, it's interesting to think about like how much better my life has become over the past couple of years, but there are some trade-offs, and the trade-offs are interesting and definitely worth it. But yeah.
Everything, no matter how valuable, has a cost for sure.
hmm Yeah. How are you doing, Brandon Tessers?
Good. Similar kind of a weekend. My wife Susan was out of town for her college reunion.
Oh,
So I was
wow!
with the boys, myself, and that was fun. Had a lot of fun. On Saturday, we had, I had three sons. We had a soccer game for the 4-year-old, and then 2 hours later,
Oh,
for the 7-year-old, and then a half hour after that was a football game for the 10-year-old, which was the playoff for his flag football league, and they won it. So then they had to immediately do another game, literally like that started 2 minutes after the first.
wow! With 3 children!
I got sunburned for the first time in, I don't know, many years.
Yeah!
So fun.
Wow!
And yeah, similar that. In fact, I was talking to some other parents about this at one of the games. Some of my friends that this thing, it happens for lots and lots of reasons for different people, but certainly where I live, and it's a relatively common idea. That you're a parent, and then your weekends become kind of dominated by like events that the kids are doing and working around this. This one's got a little birthday party here, and that one's got this game, and that one,
Yep. Yep.
to the extent that like at least those of us who are talking about it, we have much more control over our own schedules during the week,
Yep.
work days and things, than we do on the weekend when we have more like parameters around what we're able to do.
Yep.
Which is a very interesting kind of inversion from how we all used to be, like when we were in our 20s, where like, the weekends, like, oh, cool, you do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, my childless life as of now definitely includes like travel over the weekends and driving a few hours to visit family and friends and then blah, blah, and coming back and like yeah, totally. I was just thinking about earlier today. I'm really curious to see how my life changes when I likely have kids at some point in the future and um yeah.
Interesting way to phrase it, but yes, as people will point out over and over, it's certainly among the top like biggest changes in your life.
Oh
Maybe
yeah.
quibble about some things, but having to all of a sudden organize your life around, like, I know people who have gotten new pets, like a puppy that they have to like potty train or crate train or whatever, and how like limits, or you have a dog, so you can't just go from work to going out afterwards because you got to get home to walk the dog or whatever. And that's all true. And then children is just that times
100 maybe. I don't know. I have a dog. We'll see how the experiment plays out if I have kids at some point.
Well, I think that's kind of one of the interesting things about it is, I suppose you could call it an experiment, but I'm sure I'm missing things here, but in a general sense, at least, it's the one like non-reversible decision or event, I suppose.
Oh, by experiment I meant like because I got Athena when she was a puppy, like the difference between newborn baby versus puppy.
Yeah.
I'll have like some degree of a first-hand account. Obviously, it's different ages, and the dog is already existing when the newborn exists. But like,
Sure.
yeah.
And I hear you. That's what I'm saying. Experiment is a perfectly fine word. It is just, that's one of those things that is, like I know without even having to ask, that the idea of like rehoming Athena or giving her up is just not a possibility, not something you would ever consider, right?
Yeah, never. Yeah.
Although I kind of think of that in the same way that I think about divorce for many people, if not most people,
Yeah.
where it's like, no, that's not a possibility I'm willing to consider. And yet,
yeah, for people who get married. Yeah.
It does remain a possibility, though. Like, even though it's one that you're like, I don't even consider that.
Well, I know, and this was a person, I mean, in the 1960s, but I know of a man who drove away from his 2-year-old child and 6-year-old child and never came back and lived the rest of his life as a childless man so
Yep.
although yeah but yeah I would anyway keep going,
Well,
Brandon,
no,
please, and you're
that's
welcome to
true.
respond
And
to what I just said.
this is totally anecdotal. I don't have scientific data to back this up, but it certainly seems like that was more true the further back you go, back into like
I
70s.
also believe it seems, yeah, that some degree of co-parenting still occurs now, even if like the kids primarily reside with one of the parents and blended families and all that stuff. But
I
yeah,
also, and again, purely speculative, but I also think that was a, a spike. Like it's not something where the further back in time you go, the more you get of it. Because
yeah,
it was this, at least in the United States, it seems like there was a period of time where travel and the ability to move from like one place to significantly another place without like completely overturning your life became a possibility.
yeah,
Technology had advanced to the point that you can like move and the way that the government worked out enough and whatever, you could move
yeah,
state without like completely having to start over as a person. But technology hadn't advanced far enough for you to like be untraceable. Like you could move to another
yeah,
state and no one could ever find you.
yeah,
And there's really like
yeah.
a 20 to
This is
30.
actually quelling my, I guess, internalized ancestral trauma. Like
Uh,
that there are environmental things that made it more possible for this person to make this choice. And
well,
yeah,
and the
and the
movie.
spike
Have
part.
you ever watched Coco? Did I tell you to watch that one?
You told me to watch it, I haven't yet.
Oh,
I know.
well, then I can't talk about it. I was going to talk about it, but you should really, I'm telling you, you really should watch that movie, especially given everything you just said. Because something that I do think, like, certainly the further back in time you go, the greater the chance that, like, if somebody did travel any significant distance or whatever, that, like, they might never come back because they died or they couldn't or whatever, and you would never know the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, yeah,
But that's the thing. Even if someone tried to do that, hell, even when they did it back then, you don't stop being that person's. I mean, let's be honest, father. Those are fathers mostly that left,
hmm,
not
yeah,
exclusively, but by far the most.
yeah,
Uh, that doesn't go away because that person exists now, right? Like your relationship to a dog is about you adopting that relationship. Your relationship to a spouse is you adopting that relationship. The nature of the relationship is based on the circumstances, the
yeah,
mutual obligation, whatever. If that dog then goes and lives with somebody else, you are no longer that dog's owner,
hmm,
but you're always that person's parent. And people have agency, and even if you never hear from them again, that's still true that you're their parent and you're aware of that. I mean, a not insignificant percentage of the media, like books and movies and songs and whatever from, let's say, the 1950s to the 1980s, deal a lot with parents, again, especially primarily fathers, leaving and the repercussions of that on the children, but also the repercussions of that on the father who left. Right?
oh yeah,
Still
yeah,
alive. But they could always come find you too. Like, you can't opt out. You are literally, once they're born, you are their parent. That's just how it is.
hmm,
What that means obviously can change person to person, but if you get married and you get divorced, you are no longer that they are not your spouse anymore.
yeah. I also had a friend rehome their cat last year, and that's coming to me too as well. Like and they decided to do it, they said, because of allergies, I think. And then another person heard about it and was like absolutely disgusted, as though it was the equivalent of, yeah. And yeah, it
It
whew,
doesn't mean that you can't be upset about the idea or think about it as not the same.
Oh yeah.
I think, hold on real quick. There's a chat or a comment. Hi,
Oh, wonderful. What's the comment?
Hi, working on research for my ballot for the primaries. Won't be chatting much, but good to see y'all. Good to see you too.
Yeah, I hope the research goes well.
I really think it's great. I personally think it is important to treat animals with like respect, value them as living beings. I think, again, I understand that other people might disagree. I think that going so far as to say that animals and humans are the same is just factually inaccurate. Same means same. We're not the same. There are similarities. There are elements or components of being a person or being an animal that are the same, but the sum total of it is not the same. There are differences. And I would go even further than that and say that I am comfortable with valuing a human life over an animal life.
Hmm.
I understand arguments to the contrary, and that's the thing, right? If you did have a kid and it became, for whatever reason, impossible for that child and Athena to live in the same house, that's not going to happen. You don't wish that, but if hypothetically worse came to worse and that was the decision, then nobody's making the argument that you keep the dog and give up the baby.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Hmm. Thankfully, Athena loves little humans so much.
Yep.
Oh, she loves them. Oh, she just heard me and woke up from her nap. It was very cute. She's in a little pink, pretty princess little bed, and she heard her name and she went,
My children are very much advocating for getting a dog right now.
ooh la la!
And
Brandon Tessers gets a dog.
my family had a dog growing up, and I'm cool with dogs.
What do you think might happen?
Getting a dog, not anytime soon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something that I think pet owners would be very supportive of. A statement they would be very supportive of is that having a pet involves a lot of work. Like, it's a responsibility. It means a lot of things, and it's not structured in a way to be adding a level of responsibility in an optional way.
Yeah.
The same way that, like, my wife and I have no plans or intentions of having a fourth child.
Yeah.
We are not, to the extent that it is optional, we are not adding that amount. Now, if like some child for whom we are responsible or designated as the caretakers if their parents pass away and those parents, but then we're taking on that stuff, right? But like, we're not optionally choosing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, very tired. Have not slept well the last several days. Although tiredness is it's a subject that's come up a lot in my work and conversations with people over the last several weeks. I mean, always, but.
Well, it's interesting. Earlier today, I thought, I am a type of tired that confuses me. I can't delineate it between physical exhaustion, cognitive exhaustion, social exhaustion. It was confused. So then I was unsure about how to respond to it because sometimes, like, certain types of tired, I feel better going to the gym. Other types of tired, I feel better taking a nap. Other types of tired, I feel better socializing with people I enjoy socializing with. Other types of tired, I actually feel better after doing like a therapy session and getting in a flow state with a client. And so but this morning, the type of tired I was feeling, I was confounded by. So I opted for 30 minutes in bed and just seeing what would happen. And it helped to a certain degree, but not to the same extent when I feel like I can designate the type of fatigue. So
I hear you, and that is very aligned with the kinds of things that have been coming up a lot recently, especially, but again, always for years.
yeah.
I think there's, I'm going to say two elements to this, but I think really it's one, and then the other is just a an effect of the fact, right? So
Oh, can I do the finger thing? 1.
big that everything that we're calling tiredness is perception, right? In the same way that pain.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's not a meaningful experience. It doesn't mean that it, isn't
Yeah.
prompted by actual like material circumstances. It's just that it's filtered through the lens of perception, right? That whatever we're calling tiredness is something that we are aware of, right?
Mhm.
Like everything else, once perception and consciousness is involved, then it gets real wonky based on like how you encode language, and because literally we're just making sounds or making little pictures when we're writing things down, and we assign meaning to those things in a way that makes it so they have those encoded meanings to us, like
Mhm.
means that thing. The ability to do that means that we can take any sounds and any shapes and make them mean anything by going through the same process. So we can take the same sound, the same word, tired, and make it mean dozens of different things. And so the second thing that I think is just a knock-on effect of the first thing is that talking about tiredness is kind of like talking about pain, where is a person experiencing pain? Absolutely, we experience pain 100%. If I'm saying I'm in pain and someone's like, well, I don't think you should be. Well, it doesn't really matter. I am. Doesn't matter what I think or you think or anybody else thinks that I should. And it's not a very useful thing when you perceive it in a very non-specific way.
Mhm.
Negatives there, I guess. Sorry, now I'm distracted. I just got a weird.
It can be more useful to be more specific about pain or tiredness.
Yeah, weird message. I don't know.
You just did the double negative. Could you try to make it a double positive?
So it, in this case, like the negative is meaningful, but
Oh yeah.
eliminating the double negatives would be that it's helpful to be specific, which I agree. But
Well, that's how I sort of opened my thing with, is being specific about varieties of fatigue I can experience usually is more helpful. But I actually, what was the second thing you were going to say?
I agree with you. I'm just using a metaphor to say what you're saying too. Is just if someone says like I'm in pain, and we can even scale it up and down intensity wise. Like I'm only a little, like I'm in a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't help very much if we can't be more specific about like what's the location of that sensation and what's the specific variety or flavor or whatever. Like is it a stabbing pain, dull, throbbing, aching pain? Does it feel like it's on the surface, or does it feel like it's coming from
Mm-hmm.
And tiredness, certainly, obviously, as you just pointed out, but everybody knows intrinsically, self-evidently, tiredness is a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Use the same label to apply it to a bunch of different experiences, but we know it's different because we know that at different times, different things impact us in different ways, right? Sometimes I'm tired and getting my body moving makes it so that I'm less tired. And sometimes I'm tired and trying to move my body just makes it that much worse, that I get more tired. Sometimes I'm tired and talking to somebody makes me feel less tired. And sometimes I'm tired and talking to somebody's like, I don't want to do this. Right?
Could you use in your own language, Brandon, a way to describe what people mean by tired?
Well, certainly we're talking about like, I'll say generally, right? Because like with everything, it's not like there's a correct defined, like this is what people mean, but generally we're talking about some version of like either an increased difficulty in doing something as compared to other times, right? Like something that's always really hard for me and stays really hard. I'm not thinking about tiredness in that. But something that
I was catching up on, as an example.
Go ahead.
Yeah, as an example, I was catching up on emailing and responding to text messages that I hadn't responded to, and it was feeling way more difficult than it normally does. And then I thought, oh, so that's a helpful reminder that there's typically some experience of more difficulty than normal.
This is So I've been tempted lately, and the temptation is growing, but I'm kind of nervous about the idea to try and like
Well, you should try it on a stream that will be on the internet forever, and in the year 3000, someone may be doing an archaeological study.
maybe at some point, you know, one of your grandchildren will start a galaxy spanning empire, and
Oh,
part of that they'll attribute some thing to something their grandmother said to them when they were young, and now people are looking. So here's the smoking gun. You researchers. I just automatically assume the galaxy spanning empire is a bad thing that does bad stuff, so I shouldn't have put that on.
oh, I was thinking it was the way to save the world or something. I don't know. Like I was picturing, I was like, if it's one of my grandchildren, it's gonna be like,
I'm saving the world. That's what my grandma said.
yeah, I was thinking like the Earth becomes inhabitable and human beings find a way to save like plants, animals, insects, and rehome them to other planets and inhabit it. I don't know, but anyway.
I know I joke with you about this, and this what I'm about to say is also a joke, but about you having a completely different experience of like popular culture. You know, we're not referencing the same source materials and stories. And so, because to me, the idea that anyone would say galaxy spanning empire and then someone would be like, oh, good work. You know, like, no, those are always the bad guy.
Oh yeah, and just to be clear, imperialism has caused a ton of harm on this planet. I'm not like, but the lack of pop culture references. Yeah.
Kind of the same, like if anybody ever were to mention like, you know, a robot army, then generally people are gonna be like, that's really bad. And in reality, stories are interesting. Like, I'm not saying it can't be bad, but robots are pretty sensitive. You know, like it's kind of the comment there. Clearly, always the bad guys. Yes. If the galaxy,
Caitlin learns more and more social norms with every stream.
If the galaxy spanning like organizational structure, government, whatever you want to call it, if they're good guys, they're not called an empire. They're called
exactly
a public or a federation or an alliance or Funny thing is that sometimes confederacy, except that like in the United States especially, some yokels ruined that term, so that doesn't sound like a good thing to us anymore, even though like the word itself doesn't mean a bad thing. Anyway.
Well, what was the point you were making? I got lost in this.
I was making. Oh yeah, so the thing that I am increasingly tempted to do, but I'm wary of, is trying to sit down and like actually divide up like, okay, what are the different things that we're talking about when we're talking about tiredness and how do we address them? I've experimented with it.
I would like you to do that.
I'm wary because genuinely, like, it seems like anytime somebody makes a serious effort to be like, let's figure out what humans mean by energy and where we get it, they go crazy, like legitimately, like.
I'll help you, sir.
From reality. I don't think it can be done, but I think it can be done in useful ways without trying to get.
Oh no, I don't think there's one answer. I don't have the hubris to, but.
Like, I'll say this. Okay.
I honestly tried doing it a little bit on my website. I like wrote this thing about how to manage burnout, and I was talking about different types of energy, and I think it's essentially like Caitlin translated versions of things that you've said.
All right, here are some categories. I think one category that I think is important and that people don't always pay a lot of attention to, but we can develop more skill in, is observing the like outcomes of the things that we're doing. In other words, because tiredness, when we're saying I'm tired or whatever, is a perceptive thing, well, at least in theory, seems very solidly to be true, that as our ability to do things lessens or weakens or whatever, especially cognitively, that includes our ability to cognitively evaluate ourselves and our performance, our state. So at least in theory, I could be like, my cognitive functioning could be seriously, actually this isn't theory, this is proven, or at least there's research that supports this. My cognitive functioning could be seriously impaired from where it had been on a prior benchmark, while I would still evaluate myself as being functioning just the same.
But the only difference is you can identify that you're tired.
No, I'm saying that this is one thing people don't pay a lot of attention to, but can,
Yeah.
is that you can learn to like watch, oh, you know what? I did, like, I know a lot of people who will do the same, like New York Times crossword in the morning or Wordle or whatever.
Yeah.
Myself included at times, to the extent that it becomes an effective baseline. And there are mornings where it's like,
Yeah.
I don't feel tired, but I'm really struggling in a way that I don't seem to normally struggle. So anyway, that's
Wordle's the new mood tracker.
one category of what people mean when they're talking about tiredness. Not usually when a person's saying I am tired or I feel tired, but is a depleted or a diminished ability to do something, right? Like if my muscles are tired, I literally can't lift as much weights or whatever as I could when they are not tired. Even if I don't have any feeling or perception of that, do something to try to talk about. Another is then to talk about, and this is, I think, a big one in our culture, is to talk about the extent to which we like doing something or like the idea of doing something. Like some days you're like, I want to like do yard work and I'm going to knock out a bunch of emails and whatever. And if that's the case, we're like, oh, I'm feeling really energized or motivated or whatever you want to call it. And then other days, you're like, I don't want to go to work. I don't want to have to pack a lunch or whatever. And we call that being tired. So whether that's
Can you
like,
try to get more specific about that one?
What do you mean? I think that's primarily what people are talking about when they say they're tired. Like the thing, I think there's two categories of things that we're looking at when we report that we are tired or perceive ourselves as being tired. I think that one tends to be the more common reason that people are talking about feeling tired. The other one is physical sensations, that we will notice physical sensations and say I'm tired. So yeah, you wake up one day and you're like, I'm excited to go to work. And you wake up another day and you're like, I really don't want to go to work. And nobody would debate the idea that we could say you're more tired that second day. Even if you slept more and whatever, because sleep is an important factor, but it's not the only one. So what we're saying there is that part of what we're calling tiredness is I like things less, or I like the idea of doing things less. Included in that is the idea that like what things I like the idea of doing or what things I like doing shift. So as opposed to like I like the idea of making progress on my project when I'm not feeling tired. I like the idea of just like watching TV for several hours might be something that if I'm seeing myself do that, I'd say, oh, I'm tired. Whereas if I'm feeling very energized, it's unlikely that a person's like, I really like the idea of just sitting here on the couch and watching TV for a while. Not impossible, but generally speaking. Because we're such a cognitive-oriented culture, and people in this culture tend to be, as individuals, very cognitively oriented. I think that's primarily what people are talking about with tiredness.
Do you have any system that you approach if a person, let's say, wakes up, let's say they have a job that they are asked to work or it requires working 5 days a week, and this person comes in and says, 4 out of 5 days I wake up and I don't want to go to work and I am tired all the time. How would you approach?
So it depends on a lot of things, but
of course,
the point I'm bringing this up, because if a person, for example, almost never wanted to go to their work, then because of what I'm saying about how we use language, they could state accurately, I am tired every day. Because in that sense of what we mean by tired, we're saying like, I don't want to do the things, I I don't have the impulse to do the things. What people are often talking about is motivation. I'm not motivated to. I don't have the impulse to do things that I do believe are like beneficial. I want to accomplish them in the sense that I think it would be good to accomplish them, valuable to accomplish them, maybe even enjoyable if I accomplish them. But then I don't have the impulse, meaning my body doesn't like organize its energies and its systems in the way that like now that's happening unless I
Yeah.
put mental effort into it.
Yeah.
In other words, if a person has a job that for whatever reason they hate and they never want to go, for the most part, like humans are very adaptable. So over time you get used to that. That's why you can look at like all kinds of people with jobs, including yourself in the past, probably, that you would be like, I could not do that day in, day out. That sounds miserable. And people can do it without being miserable. In fact, people can even enjoy it. Man, now I'm worried about all the ways that could be interpreted. Like, oh, human suffering is not real. People can enjoy it. That's not the point.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, so that's one big thing I would be exploring. If a person's saying that they're always tired, maybe they're just living a life full of things that they really don't want to do, that they think that they should want to do, and they're noticing that lack of a desire to do them, an impulse to do them, and thinking that something must be missing. And because obviously in this hypothetical, they have intellectually, rationally or logically identified it as something that they should enjoy or want to do in a sense of having an impulse. When they're trying to investigate why that isn't happening, they're not going to explore that, like, well, the thing itself is not something that I should have an impulse to do. They've already decided that it is. So they've got to look for something else that's gone wrong. And the most obvious place to look based on the messaging everyone has is that you're lacking something.
Yeah.
And so that often then puts, honestly, this is, I think, a lot of why the tiredness stuff comes up so much, is that people then get put into a position where it's almost set up as a binary, that either you're just being lazy or some version of that. You say you want this thing, but you don't actually really want it, or whatever. Or the alternative to that is, no, I am depleted, tired, incapable or ineffective, or, whatever version.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some versions of incapable, no, I want to do that, but I am incapable to do that, is we conceptualize as being more or less permanent and unchangeable. And some we consider to be like transitory, and tiredness kind of encapsulates everything in that last category. Anything where it's like, no, I do want to do this, just not right now. And I am capable of doing this, just not right now. Then that's tiredness. I just need to like recoup energy or rest or whatever to get to the point where I'll be able to do it and want to do it. Which is totally valid. But sometimes people then get stuck thinking, it's like if you promise somebody that, like, hey, if you do this really crappy thing today, tomorrow I'll give you $100, and they sign up for it, and then the next day you're like, okay, can't give you the $100 today, but if you do this really crappy thing again, you'll actually get $200 tomorrow. And then just every day you keep pushing it out further and further, and then by the end you're like, oh man, I have invested 10 years of doing crappy stuff with no reward, but by this point I'm being promised $10 million tomorrow if I do it another day. If I walk away, I get nothing, so I might as well do another day and see if it pays off. Sunk cost fallacy, things like that. If you sacrifice and work hard in high school, then you can get into a good college. And once you get into good college, if you sacrifice and work hard in that college, then you can get a good job. And then you get that job. And if you sacrifice and work hard in your entry-level job, then you can get promoted. And if you sacrifice and work hard in your, and then sooner or later it's like, well, and if you sacrifice and work hard at your top of the hierarchy job, then you'll be able to retire and not have to work at all. There's a joke that I've heard, I don't know, for decades, like a relatively common in certain circles joke about this American businessman, like CEO, whatever, who's on vacation on a beach somewhere in Mexico, and he wakes up in the morning and he sees the guys go out fishing and then come back at 10 o'clock, hang out and relax and play guitar and eat food and whatever, and then do the same thing the next day. finally he goes up to one of them after a few days and he's like, why don't you stay out longer, right? Like you come back at 10 with your nets half full, but if you stayed out longer, you could come back with your nets full. And the guy he's talking to says, why would I do that? Because then you could sell the extra fish that you've caught and make additional money, a surplus. He's like, well, what would I do with that? Well, then you could like buy additional boats and hire other people to do the fishing and stuff for you. Why would I do that? So you can make more money, get even more surplus, and then so on and so forth until it's like, well, then you could run this huge organization and be making millions of dollars. And eventually, why would I do that? Because then you could retire and just spend all your time on the beach hanging out with your friends and playing guitar and
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
And there's truth to that. I suspect that joke is derived from a lot of things. Not insignificant amount of that is the like romanticization of foreign people's lives and so on.
Yeah.
But that doesn't deny the truth of like, when you make sacrifices for the future, like that is intended. There's a balance there. You make too many sacrifices. Like no one would argue, for example, that if a person is working up until the day they die at the age of 99, doing stuff that they hate doing because soon they'll be able to retire and enjoy their life, that we'd all be like, no, that's tragic. They never where exactly that balance is tricky. But yeah, people certainly, because of the way that we encode language and beliefs, and we get into places where we do things day after day after day that just clearly are not working well for us, but we're so convinced that they should that we don't ever step back to check our priors. I've been playing this video game recently. It's called Blueprints.
Is it Blueprints?
Yes, most
I
recommended.
remembered.
Colleague, and it's fun. It's a puzzle game, and in particular, at least my experience, I don't know how much of this is by design. I'm willing to give credit to the designers and just assume it's all by design. In my experience, as like someone who's played video games throughout my life and like learned the language of video games, is that they've almost deliberately played on that. Where, when I walk into a new room, it's a puzzle game, and of course I'm like searching around for clues and like what things can be interacted with and whatever. And then once I do that, I log that room without even thinking of it that way. I log that as being like, yep, I checked in there. Well, and then in this game, there are items you can get that then when you go back to that same room and check the same thing, now you can interact with it because you have the item.
Oh.
And like, so there's a bunch of things that I not only missed because I checked it the first time, but then like didn't even realize until later that I had written that off as like, oh, there's nothing to explore in there. And then as soon as I re-explore it with more knowledge, I'm like, oh yeah, no, obviously there's stuff there, but you just zoom right past.
That's cool. I like that. That reminds me of there's this author that I follow and think is amazing, and her name is Sophie Strand, and she just did a podcast interview with a woman with a podcast called Grace Pilled, like pilled as in like a pill, instead of Grace Filled. And she challenged the listeners to return to similar spots in nature and notice, like almost as a devotion of notice the changes and what is different and invite experiences into it. And that kind of reminded me of the rooms.
That's interesting. And I have a question. I like that idea. I really do. And I do think that's part of what the people who enjoy, and this is a fairly like, it's got I think that's part of what's appealing about it to people is that typically the structure of a video game is that like, much like a novel or whatever, right? It's something that you're doing with the intention of completing it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes by the time you do complete it, you wish there was more and you weren't done. But like that idea of there being progression through something that you eventually finish is baked in as opposed to life. And so something like what you're talking about there is really great. And while that like specific application I don't think is necessarily common, the general idea is common of like slow down, attention to things, whatever. Because people do start to treat life like it's a series of tasks to be accomplished and completed. Of course, by the structure of a video game, it is that. And so this game, I think, does some very interesting things to play with the format. Where, like, of course, it is
Yeah.
still a video game, and it is still something that, like, it is not intended. Nobody who ever picks it up is ever like, this is now something I'm just going to do for the rest of my life. You know, like, you're going to finish it at some point. But the game does some very interesting things to play with. Like, the task that you are given at the beginning of the game is not easy to accomplish. And as you're learning the game, it takes a bit of time. But you can probably accomplish it. Most people will accomplish it within the span of, let's say, I don't know, 5 to 10 hours, maybe at most.
Oh, interesting.
And the credits roll. And then you start the next day, and there's a new letter, and it's like, congratulations. The premise of the game is your great uncle died and left you his weird mansion that resets every night, and you have to, like, explore it. But in order to fully inherit, yeah, it's never.
Oh, I like the Groundhog Day thing.
Like, the whole, every time you open a door, it gives you an option of 3 different rooms that can be on the other side of the door, and there's random chance involved. The whole layout of the house changes every time you explore it, and every night it resets.
Ooh.
Concept, certainly. And, you know, it's right off the bat, like, you have to find the secret hidden room 46 in order to really inherit this mansion. People who play the game or have played the game jokingly refer to finding room 46 as completing the tutorial, but the game it even runs credits when you do it. And then it looks like, because video games often do this, you're able to complete the quest, but then still, like, play around because you've built up this character that's fun to play with, whatever, if you want. So you walk in, and there's a letter that's like, congratulations on inheriting the house from your great uncle. He's like, I gave you this task because when I was a young man, I didn't have a goal to aim for. You know, I just lived this, like, meandering life, whatever. And I didn't do well with that, and it took me a long time to become somebody with purpose, and I wanted you to have some kind of a goal. But now you've accomplished that goal, and now you're a person that is in charge of your purpose. And so the question is, what are you going to do with that? You can be done, or you can explore, and if you explore, you can decide what things you're interested in continuing to explore or not. They do a good job storyline wise of playing with this concept, including that.
So what happens after that, Brandon? Keep going.
Well, that's just, they call it the beginning or the end of the tutorial for like, that's the beginnings of introducing you to this larger thing. But I will say, and I haven't accomplished all the things I want to accomplish, but it seems very clear, including that I've looked around at, like, what other people said and talked to people. It seems very clear that there is no point at which the game is like, yep, you did it all, good job. And so there's just endless debate for people who want to debate about, like, is this another thing? Is there another secret here? Is this a thing? And then, like, when you, spoilers beyond, I shouldn't have spoiled that now that I think about it, because, like, even that was a cool moment to be like, is that the game is done? And I just gave away that it's not done. My bad. Spoilers. Cut this out of the copy that'll be available to the archaeologists in 1,000 years.
No, they'll find it fascinating how much you seem to be concerned about a spoiler. That's also a cultural phenomenon.
There are many, like, anagrams and puns and word things, and one that keeps coming up over and over is there's a phrase, many different phrases that all anagram to the phrase, does it never end?
Yeah.
Spiral stuff that, like, there's, I think, kind of cruelly but hilariously cruelly, there's a book called A New Clue that you can get that does in fact contain new clues in it that helps you if you, like, decode it right. But also the text of that book is very much talking about how, like, the detective was so desperate to find a new clue that he's gone insane, basically, and, like, it's too much. So the game's making points about, like, you just have to find a point where you decide that you're done, like, not get obsessed. Anyway, it's interesting.
Wow.
So I think that's
part a metaphor for death.
People is, like, it did a good job with the mechanics of the game, creating an experience in a video game that you don't usually have in a video game, where it's like, oh wait, so I should just kind of, like, revisit things that I've already figured out. And I mean, not that that concept in and of itself is new, but it's well executed in ways.
Wow.
You would actually probably like it, except that I don't know that you'd have to. I think you think of yourself as someone who doesn't like video games, and so
No, I think I am likely to like video games. I haven't. The last one I played was The Sims in like 2005. Um, but I do think it's likely, and my partner and I are trying to figure out what is a game that he and I will play together. Um, and I did just get part of it felt like what?
I have some recommendations if that's
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you do. And I just got invited to join a Minecraft server, and I was like, ooh. So I, as well as movies and TV shows, I'm dipping my toes into these things.
I do think the idea that some people like have no problem stating the idea that video games do not count as art is just so absurd on the face of it. It has no standing.
I definitely think they count as art.
One could.
Yeah.
Roger Ebert famously, who I think is just an incredible critic, genuinely, I think he's amazing. He famously was stating that video games were not art, and his reasoning was that because of the nature of what a video game is, it contains replayability, right? You have to be able to, especially at the time, the limited nature of what technologically could be done. It's like, here's a level and you try to beat it, and if you fail, you get another shot. If you fail, you never get another shot. No one wants to play that game, right? And so he was talking about it as that like defeats the purpose of it being art. You have to be able to like master it, so it turns it more into kind of a skill than an art.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just very short-sighted to not see how like people could play with that. And that's akin to saying that like film can't be art because you can rewatch it, or you could turn it off at any point or whatever. Like the way in which you engage with film logistically. I mean, genuinely, my favorite games ever play with the convention of the form. They use that as part of the experience, that they're in the same way that I think the best visual art does, right? They use they're not limited by the medium. They use the medium to convey some of the experience that they're trying to convey.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Here's my question. It's partly teasing you, but also genuinely curious. Have you not heard like something pilled in other contexts?
I don't think so. Can you give me examples?
I never would have thought of grace-filled, because I don't even, that's not a phrase I'm familiar with, the idea of being grace-filled.
Yeah.
Filled is internet lingo.
Oh. Okay.
Starting with The Matrix, a movie I'm guessing you haven't seen, in which at one point the protagonist is given a choice to take, he finds out that his world is an illusion and that the real world
is definitely what she's referring to with the logo. Now that I'm
and there's a red pill and there's a blue pill, and if
blue pill. Yeah.
I could
Her
be getting,
logo is a red pill.
if you take the blue pill, you fall asleep, you wake up tomorrow and everything continues on as normal, and this is just a strange dream. But if you want to know more, you take the red pill, and that wakes you up to the reality of it. Eventually that got turned into like, people referring to like taking the red pill, waking up to the reality of the situation, whatever, and then became an adjective for people, that person is red pilled. They have woken up to the reality of things.
That is a great name for a show.
And then it's now, first of all, it started getting applied to all different kinds of colors. There's a black pill and orange pill, and yellow, and all of those meant specific things to specific subcultures, like whether you're feminist or not and whatever.
Yeah.
And then at this point now, it's just anything pilled. Like you can be anything pilled, and it mostly means I have engaged with this. Like I could say that I'm blueprints pilled, right? Like it means I've engaged with this thing so much, that it has impacted the way I perceive things. I'm much more aware of this thing. It influences me a lot more than it does the general population.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
Not like important, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Grace-filled I like that term.
Mm-hmm.
And there's more to talk about, but we also need to wrap up. I'll say, here's a brief recommendation to give to people about this tiredness thing is try to track more specifically. When you're feeling tired, I would start at least with 2 different things. What do I physically feel? Like, what physical sensations am I feeling? Oftentimes, I would say most often, but I don't know. That has to do with a lot of physical sensation around the eyes. So I've noticed for myself, for example, that that eye strain, what I consider to be eye strain, if I think about it, I would think of it as eye strain, like literally the muscles of my eyes are fatigued from doing something. If I don't think about that consciously, deliberately, and I notice it, I'm just like, man, I'm tired. So physical sensation, and then on the other side, look at your cognitive and emotional experience. So every time you're tired, take a look. What am I feeling physically, and what am I thinking or feeling emotionally? And if you do that, just even for a few days, you should pretty quickly start to recognize that, okay, there's a lot of different experiences I'm having that I loop together as tiredness, which is one of the ways, again, we're talking generally, but if somebody's saying I'm always tired, one possible, very common explanation is that they're always experiencing, or at least generally or most often experiencing, at least one of these different things, but they loop a bunch of different things into calling it tired, and then they mistake it as I'm always in the same condition, even though my condition is fluctuating, even if it is all unpleasant or depleted, which it can't be, but even if it mostly is, still very different versions of those things. And that's why everything you're trying is not likely to work, because anything that does help with some version, some of those conditions, states, is not likely to help. There's nothing you're going to find that's going to help with all of it. So if you conceptualize it as one issue, you're never going to find anything, not even sleep, although that's going to be the closest. Getting good sleep, whatever that means for you, daily basis, every day, that's going to be the thing that's the closest to resolving all of that. But even that won't resolve all of it. So then you'll be like, I'm sleeping better and I still feel tired. And so start by getting specific.
I would like to see if Brandon Tessers could do a survey on different types of energy and write about it and divide it up.
I've made one up that I give to clients, but we can talk about it.
Yeah. It was good to be with you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for future viewers.
Yes.
In the space-time continuum.
Really, there's some researcher in the year 3000 that's been watching all of these streams, and then they got to this one and they're like, ooh, creepy.
Oh, I love her so much.
Reminded me of another very cool moment in a video game. But we gotta go. It's good to be with you all. We'll be back same time next week.
Next week. Thank you.
PM Central. Thank you.